It's all right.
Yeah, either team wants it.
Yeah, it's really handout. Have you heard from anyone?
Angie, will you see if anyone's locked out?
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's Josh.
Alright.
They're doing it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
We'll call the meeting to order at 5:32, Charles City Community School District. Education, roll call vote
President Dr. Trope,
here.
Vice President Hager, Board Member Cox,
Here.
Board Member Hebert,
Here.
and Board Member Mack.
Union District Mission Vision.
Mission to challenge all students to achieve their full potential through engaging, responsive educational experiences that inspire innovation, critical thinking, and collaboration. Our vision to develop learners who are confident, compassionate, problem solvers. Our operating principles: information for one is information for all, no surprises, verify facts, think ahead and disagree, explain your thinking.
Thank you. Full agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve well, I guess I've already. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any visitors for public comment?
Hello, everybody. I'm Brian Bjorklund, resident teacher coach here. I'm here to discuss TK, specifically in favor of keeping it moving forward next year and into the foreseeable future. Just looking around, National Plainfield has it, Decorah has it, and does a great job advertising it and how to get signed up for it. Osage has it. Mason City just added it this year and is actually going to add more to it. New Hampton is in discussions of adding it as well. So people around us are moving forward with it and wanting it. So why eliminate for 1 year? That's a discussion of that, or potentially even in the future. I think actual opposite is probably needed. How much strength in it, right? Other places are added it, it's positive, why not look at strength in it? Another big topic I think of is what good can come from TK. We know our district has a large number of IEPs, percentage wise. TK, one of the many good things, is shown to decrease the likelihood of those IEP services needed or similar services in the future. We know enrollment is another big topic needed here. Is that all right?
All right, we can't get our Zoom to work, so we're gonna do it online.
Sure. See me? Yeah, that way. I'm not sure. Time went by. I practiced at home was less than 3 minutes, I'll say that. Enrollment wise, that's a big topic for us. TK is fully funded and is funded throughout their graduation, so it's going to decrease that way. I compare it to. Josh, some.
No.
Sorry.
Carl, yeah. In terms of, like a healthcare services, when you start off life, if it's done well and it's done in a way that you like, you probably continue that throughout the whole course of your life as goes from beginning to end. So I can see that as TK as well. I guess the question probably is why not enough students? That is the key question. Is the new rubric this year, is it too difficult? Is it not done in fidelity? Have we looked at the people in the past at this time last year, what the numbers actually look like? Why? What does that look like there? And then people we've talked in the community, when we said that the new CK is done, they said this is the first time we've heard of it. So why is it not being discussed more that way? So that's the big question, is I want to know is why and what's that look like in the past? And how much have we actually done to reach out to the age appropriate people that's related to? Not just the 15 or 16 people, but actually to our community. And lastly, to finish this, when we moved to Charles City 3 years ago, TK was a big positive, big draw for us. And our daughter Briella has seen success in academically, socially, So emotionally, confident wise, and I truly believe TK has been a paramount part of her education, being a reason. So moving forward, I'm for TK moving forward, really asking the why is it this year compared to other years? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments on the public comment? Main Street Insurance.
Good afternoon. My name is John Breeze, Assistant and Associates. To vote for Tom Sisson and Bob Ingerman. And today with me, I have Joe Vance. He's our municipality specialist. So that I'm going to give it to Joe.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to present this evening. I have packets in front of you that has a ton of information in them. I'm gonna go very high level through this, but I wanted to, have the information contained. So if there is any follow-up questions, all of our teams kind of information is included. So yeah, high level discussion, but if there's anything that you're noticing in there that you want to have further discussion on, certainly happy to talk about any and all of those things. First page in here is just our team page. So wanted to give context. Sisson and Associates is the First Main Street agency. So our First Main Street group partners with agencies all across the state of Iowa and beyond. John's role is local advisor. So John lives here in the community. We have 2 other team members that are right here in Charles City that for us give us kind of that local, have a pulse on what's happening locally, know what the current events are, allows our team that specializes in public entity to really be a good solid advice when it comes to risk transfer and insurance for school districts, but having people in the local community that still, serve on local boards, they have a pulse on what's happening. So kind of that best of both worlds concept with local service, but the expertise that a large district like Charles City Community School District needs. So this is our team here, just high level overview of that group. The next couple of pages are more so a market overview. So we're in right now what's called the tough insurance market or hard insurance market. When I was here last year, I recognized a couple of the board members from last year. Very similar story. Unfortunately, it has not gotten better, particularly for school districts across the state of Iowa. Very challenging renewal again this year. And so we went through a 50-page document we sent to Callie and Dr. Lundquist. There's a cheat sheet on page 19, which is the page that's right here that we go through with all of our districts. So just helping them understand what to expect for renewal rates into this coming year, not specific to Iowa or specific to school districts, but this is just the commercial insurance market in general. Is this kind of page 3 of your document right there. I include a lot of information in these presentations when we go through them with Callie on loss history and performance. The reality with insurance is in order to reduce our costs related to insurance, there's 2 ways to do it. We have to either have less claims or buy less insurance. And the only way to really buy less insurance or have that be a viable option is to have less claims. So with every school district we work with, I put a lot of information in here on claims history, just so our school boards have an idea of what the claims look like for the district. The reality is for Charles City as a district, relative to the size of your account, you have good claims history. There's one line in particular being workers' compensation that we'd like to see improvement on, that we have some ideas that we'd like to work with administration moving forward. Work comp doesn't get solved for overnight, but there are some ways that we can instill safety committee and good culture into the workers' compensation environment that we would hope yield better results. So some of the claim or the premium increase that we're seeing as a result of having workers' compensation. So that's really a majority of the next several pages in here, just trying to be cognizant of time when I can hit on all of these, but if you review after, happy to have any individual discussions with anybody on the board when it comes to performance on the account. The one page to highlight in the claims is at the top, there's a section that says property. It's about 4 pages into that claims history. And the reason I wanted to highlight that page in particular is Charles City has very good claims history when it comes to your property coverage. So think your own buildings, first party loss. So if you have a loss to your actual property and we need to repair or rebuild, this is the claims history on the account. So you really have two claims that are at $25,000 and above. The property is the most challenging line of coverage for all school districts in general, and the one that we're seeing the most action on this year. So I want you to be aware of what your claims history looks like. So when we talk about the deductible structure in a second here, you can kind of understand what historical looks like compared to what we're moving towards. So that's just some information on claims history. I know I covered that very fast, but we didn't want to be cognizant of time. Any questions specific on that? Otherwise, this is the next page that we're going to. So it's kind of the second to last page in your document. So I stated that the biggest, most challenging pain point for school districts is property insurance coverage. Charles City Community School District is with the IASB insurance program. EMC is the insurance company on that program. There's about 330 school districts across the state of Iowa. 315 of them are with the IASB program. So they are the majority kind of insured. They've been in the education insurance space for many, many years. I think they've eclipsed 50 years as being the preferred provider in the state of Iowa. So a long history. You're with the right insurance market, but there are some challenging changes this year that we've made Callie aware of. But just want to go kind of high level overview of what that looks like specific for Charles City. So last year when I presented at all of your attendance centers, they moved to what were called fixed wind and hail deductibles. So if the type of loss was a wind or hail event, you had fixed deductibles that were above and beyond what your typical property deductible is. And those were on a per building basis. So last year, you had a $5,000 deductible. The elementary school had a $25,000 deductible, same with the junior high, and then the high school had a $75,000 deductible. Those were all fixed. So if you had a tornado, let's say, that came through and impacted the school district, 75 for the high school, 25 for elementary, fixed deductible that you were out of pocket expenditure, and then EMC would come in and pay claims above and beyond that figure. What school districts are being forced to move to this year is a percentage deductible, and it's a percentage of the building values. So all school districts with EMC, they have a 1% wind and hail deductible. That doesn't sound like a big deal until you start doing the math, which is what this essentially overviews. So everything listed on this page, based on you keeping a $5,000 deductible, each of these locations would have a separate wind and hail deductible that would apply, and that is in the middle column listed here. So if you look under estimated wind hail costs 5K AOP, that's what the individual wind and hail deductibles would be per building. So we went from, 75, 25, 25, 25 to all of a sudden there's a potential $1 million out of pocket expenditure with the new setup, which in talking to Callie, we know that there's a healthy management fund, but that is a significant change from last year. And so what you're going to see on the next page is a potential recommendation to help offset some of that wind hail deductible. So I call this the insurance spreadsheet for most school boards. I recognize that it's an overwhelming document. The Cliff Notes version is far left-hand column is what the policies issued at the last renewal. So when I came here and talked to the group last year, that's what all the policies issued. The next column on the right is if we made no changes except for what EMC is requiring us to change. That's the second column. And then you're going to see a column on the far right-hand side titled recommendation. And that's what I would recommend that we look at doing as a district. So the biggest change, anything that's in yellow highlighted is worth talking about. I'm gonna hit on the kind of most important points that would be changes, and then happy to answer any questions above and beyond that. Essentially, what we'd be looking to do is you have a $5,000 property deductible historically, that's your all perils deductible. So think that's lightning strikes, fires, a sprinkler head that bursts, anything that's encompassed in that, you had a $5,000 deductible historically. You can see by your claims history, there's not a lot of claims that the district has incurred by having that set up. If we make no changes, you're going to have a property premium of $286,165 by keeping that $5,000 all perils deductible. If you look in the far right-hand column, this is the district going to a $50,000 all perils deductible, which is not uncommon for school districts that are the size of Charles City Community School District. That reduces our premium by just over $60,000. So your new property premium is $221,986. So significant savings. The one thing that we would look to do is if you go kind of all the way down in that column, you're gonna see a green highlight at 50,000. That's an estimated premium. And what it is we can go out and buy wind and hail deductible buy down policies. So essentially taking those wind hail deductibles per building and setting a specific amount that would not be exceeded by having insurance policies for wind and hail deductibles. So our strategy is for Charles City Community School District to save premium by taking on a higher all perils deductible, but then reducing its potential out-of-pocket expenditure for a significant hailstorm or tornado that would rip through Charles City, and buy wind hail deductible buy down policies to have them at 50,000 per building. So essentially, you wouldn't have more than a $50,000 expenditure at any of your locations for a wind and hail event if we purchase these wind hail deductible buy down policies. So there's two courses of action. I would recommend regardless that you take the $50,000 all perils deductible. Again, the size of Charles City Community School District, it makes sense for you to take on a higher deductible and you're going to save a significant amount of premium. And then it's just weighing, should we buy wind hail deductible buy down policies to make sure that we don't have a potential $1 million cash flow event in the event that a tornado rips through Charles City? Or do we self-insure for that, save the premium, and have less go out the doors in the form of premiums that we're paying to an insurance company? So that's essentially the strategy. I put all lines of coverage on here, and I'm happy to go through any and all of that information. But again, I want to be cognizant of time and make sure that I'm hitting primarily the changes that are happening at renewal this year and the strategies that we're working with Callie and team on as we approach the July 1st renewal. So I'm going to pause there and open it up to any questions that the board has.
I just had a question. So I noticed, like you said, in the right-hand column, it indicates the 1% property wind hail percentage.
Yep.
So then how do we get away from that and are able to just go with the 50,000?
So the strategy would be EMC is going to have a 1% wind and hail deductible on there regardless. They won't change that structure. We'd be going to another insurance company that sells wind hail deductible policies. So essentially you're buying coverage that says in the event that tornado comes through and impacts Charles City Community School District, our insurance company is going to pay anything beyond 50,000 up until the point that EMC's policy kicks in. So we'd be
So it's like a
buying-
secondary insurance policy.
Correct, yeah. So for the most part, when I evaluate for school districts, I don't like fixing insurance problems by buying more insurance. I truly don't, even as the insurance guy. We're just trying to give recommendations. If there's a potential event that's catastrophic in nature and a district says, hey, that amount of a cash flow event would be hugely detrimental, then we always look at insurance options. So would be $1 million. We'd never recommend that you have a million building that goes uninsured. So if a deductible is potentially gonna be up to $1 million, we at least want to provide options to insure for a portion. So you'd still take on some risk at 50,000 per building, but it's significantly less than what we'd be looking at.
What is the cost of buying that?
So that's the one quote we don't have back yet. So in the spreadsheet, far right hand column, the one that's highlighted in green, I just input 50,000. We're working on that quote. I wanted to put kind of a conservatively high premium in there. I think it will be less than that, but I didn't want to put in 25,000 and come back closer to 50. So this number at the end is based on if the premium for wind hail deductible buyback was 50,000. The last column would be your total annual premium, which represents still a 22.2% increase year over year. So the alternative is if we don't buy any insurance for wind hail deductible buyback, kind of take the risk of that, and our renewal, year over year looks more like 10%. So it's a significant difference if we don't buy it, but I think the potential cash flow of it is significant. Most districts are looking at this. The IASB group, they talk about this at their annual meeting, which Kelly attends. So she's as well versed as probably I am at all of this, but just a significant issue.
Is that the only number? You do a little higher number than that?
As far as looking at the buildings, we could go to a higher number. If we do that, then my recommendation would probably be that the only building we buy when they have the buy down policy on would be the high school / middle school. So that is, if you go back to this deductible projection, it's the page before. So the potential wind hail deductible per building is based on 1% of the value of that building. So you'll see the biggest value for the district is the high school, middle school at about 65 million. 1% of that 650,000. The remainder, Lincoln is at 130, we got 150, 160. So if we're gonna go any higher than buying the individual buildings that are 50,000, if we're gonna go to 100,000, let's say, then I'd probably say leave all the other buildings alone. Let's only buy a policy on the middle school, high school, because you're not insuring for that much on the other buildings. If we so
What's that do to our yearly costs?
it would reduce it, but whether fortunately or unfortunately, the biggest risk is the middle school, high school here, so it's gonna be the biggest driver of whatever that premium is. So if we took off the other buildings and went to 100,000, you might be looking at reducing the premium we spend on that by 30%, would just be a rough figure, so that is, 12 to 15,000. But the event looks worse than what happened, so just making some determinations. That is, if there's concepts or ideas that the board or administration has though on, if this is our max out of pocket spend we would want to have in the event of a tornado, we can structure that wind hail deductible policy to match whatever that figure is. Right now, based on the way we have it set up, you'd be looking at the potential for about 225,000 of out of pocket expenditure with those at every single building is impacted by. So that's kind of the setup that we have.
I guess it's tricky because with an issue like wind hail, it's most likely gonna affect the buildings within a mile. I mean, it's just not really isolated. A tornado might be more isolated than wind hail.
For sure. Very likely. Which is why we like to encompass all of them. We feel like if we're gonna buy them down to 50,000, we should include all of them. So, what I don't want to tell you is let's only buy it on the middle school, high school. There's a tornado that impacts 2 of the other buildings. There's a 1%. We say I thought we bought the insurance for buying these down. I said, well, we only did it. So that's the.
And then I see the other recommendation was just to increase cyber by
Yeah,
a little bit more than
Yeah,
Much increase.
right now you have a $2 million. So there's two potential recommendations on the far right-hand column. With cyber, you currently have a $2 million limit, you go to a $3 million limit for. It's 2,000, approximately 2,000 a year. So that's something to consider. There have been cyber events that have impacted the district historically, so the limit is always better when those things happen, but not a, you have to take action on that, but we wanted to put that in the column. The other thing is the way that the IASD program is set up or structured is there is underlying limits, we went through this last year, underlying limits of 2 million on the various lines of coverage, so general liability, auto liability, linebacker coverage, 2 million is the underlying limit. EMC then has a $3 million umbrella above and beyond. And then there's a separate policy for excess liability of an additional 5 million. So for any one event right now, the district has $10 million of coverage as a policy period starts for any. Those limits can be exhausted if something happens, it reduces your limit, but that's what you start off with. There's the ability for you to purchase an additional 5 million, so to have a $10 million excess policy and 15 million total in coverage. The cost for that is 7,000 additional. And then the IASD program, when not even secured, you can purchase above and beyond that to another 5. So excess liability is one of those that we can kind of set it where you want it, up to $20 million for any one event. We always get the question, what should we have? It's a really hard one to answer. The last couple of years, nothing has exceeded a $10 million event. But there's also, events that happen every day that, example, it's close to home is there was an auto incident the other day. If we were the negligent party in that incident, and there's students that are injured, all of a sudden those claims can blow up very quickly. And so we just always want to be able to give the district recommendations in this line. So those are what we put together as far as options that the district has.
Decision.
Yeah, so ideally, we bind all the policies before July 1st. So my goal tonight is not to get the board to vote and say this is what we should go with. My recommendation would be that we secure what this final quote looks like, update this spreadsheet, give kind of our final recommendation to Callie and allow her to present that to the board to make a determination for July 1st. So I would expect we'll have this number back within the next couple of weeks, so should be in time for the next board meeting. So that would be our goal, is to do that and then allow you to make kind of 3 individual decisions. Do we buy wind hail deductible buy-down policies? Do we purchase a $3 million limit for cyber instead of the $2 million one that we have now? And then do we increase our excess liability coverage? And we'll kind of lay out the cost for each of those and allow the board to make a decision based on recommendation from the administration. So that'd be our goal. Try to do that as fast as possible. I know I went over the 5 minutes, but any other questions that I can answer? Appreciate the time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, for sure. Down to the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Number 8, committee reports. There were no committees meetings this last month, or 2 weeks. Number 9, administrators, directors, superintendent. Yeah.
Jen and Joker.
Oh, all right. Are they here?
Jen's here.
You're up, Jen.
Or.
Okay.
You guys want to do those?
Yes, I'm gonna talk about TK. Joe Carney was not able to be here tonight.
This actually started last year. Dr. Lundquist asked Nanette Smith to start looking at the TK data and the numbers to evaluate the program. And then she asked Joe to pick it up again this year. I would say probably about end of October, November, by the time I think we got to that. I do have data on the students that have gone through the TK program traditionally in Charles City for the last, how many years it's been in place. And it showed benefits for some, not so many benefits for others, and pretty consistent with the research out there. There is research to show that for students that need more of the social emotional growth time, that gives them an opportunity to do that. Academic wise, there's not as much research to support that. So Joe Carney was asked to do that. And he did go through the steps that Dr. Lundquist asked him to do. And the TK program is not gone by any means. It's just the fact that for next year, we only have 4 students who qualified and their families were interested in the program. Prior to this year, there was not a rubric in place. It was basically either teacher recommendations or parent recommendations. And to be totally transparent, there were probably more parent recommendations. They just felt their child needed an extra year. So we put them in that classroom, which is a classroom of 15, I believe we capped it at. So Joe did, and the TK teachers, excuse me, the preschool teachers, they put a rubric along with Kim Nischel, who is the current TK teacher, put a rubric together. And that did come from resources we gained through Decorah. Mason City Mason City, who's putting a TK program into place because Mason City Newman has one in place. And included the student's birthday, which oftentimes parent requests because it's late, it's a summer birthday. Just a young child for that grade level, which is understandable. The goal assessments, which would be very similar to the FAST assessments for the pre-K students looked at. Their attendance is looked at, because obviously that's a factor in their academic success. Attendance is looked at. All those things were involved in creating the rubric that Joe Carney used with his team this year. They identified approximately 10 to 12 students that would be good TK candidates. That would have been Joe and the teacher team. When they discussed that with each of the families at conferences, and nearly all of the families declined the TK program for their children. They also took into consideration parent requests, those that were not identified by Mr. Carney and the teacher team. And that was basically 2 families. The parents were given the option to request more information about TK when they pre-registered their students, so that was out there. And he actually called each of the pre-K, the preschoolers' parents, particularly the ones that were identified as being beneficial of being part of the TK program. He reached out to all of them directly. So basically, there were 4 families after that process that said they would like their child in TK. With that being said, we had decided that with 4 families, we couldn't financially sustain a teacher for 4 students. And that's when Joe had talked to each of those 4 families, sharing that we would not, for the 24-25 school year, have the TK program. We again would go through the same process for the next school year, 25-26, but for the next year, we couldn't financially sustain a teacher for those 4 students. We were going to put those students into the kindergarten classrooms, not all in the same classroom, just depending on the needs of the students. And they would have the opportunity to reevaluate at the end of the kindergarten year whether they would like to retain their child for a second year of kindergarten, so retention in that place. So it's really not going away. It's just we don't have the children for the next year for that program. We just wanted to make sure, and I can forward the letter prepared for the board tonight by Mr. Carney to you guys right away. That's actually what I was doing when I didn't think about it right now.
Yeah.
Okay, he did, okay, good. Then I don't have to do that.
I'll wait till you're finished.
No, that's all I have. I think some of it is disheartening. I think for all of us too, as we kind of restructured the preschool program at the same time. There are 2 feeder programs to the district again. So,
That's probably the bigger deal. Brian, he was saying that from a research standpoint, from academic side, that hasn't shown that that provides any significant benefit to the children.
I would say for most students, it would be more the social emotional maturity, physical maturity, and just confidence level, those types of things that they gain the most.
Sure.
Academically wise, I can't quote you the research off the top of my head, but there might be slight things academically wise, but then some of that research they question because they're being compared to older students in the class, and it's not a fair comparison, so.
You did mention something about, whether it's a research-based thing or an opinion-based thing, that's what I want to know. Children that are by IEPs, come in with that, they do better and are graduated out of an IEP sooner, or is?
I'm not sure exactly what he said, but I think well, I'm not sure, like I said, but there's less IEPs if a student experiences that TK. When looking at least historically, the Charles City students that have gone through the TK program, I would say that's not necessarily true. Some students still either ended up having an IEP or stayed on an IEP. I think it just depends a lot of time on the student and the core instruction they're getting, and then also the instruction they're getting with their SDI within the special ed world. If there's next steps you want us to take.
What is the alternatives if since we're not going to be able to do it financially this year? What are parents choosing to do then?
I think some parents look at another, I see, another school in the district, they might look at other districts to go to TK. I think 2 of the parents for sure are gonna have their children put in the kindergarten classroom, and they look at how successful they are in the kindergarten and possible retention of kindergarten.
Does IC have TK?
No, they don't. They don't. And
It just provides a different atmosphere, so that there's not a stigma.
Preschool.
Right. They also have the option to attend preschool again.
they do.
But not free preschool, right? That's what I was told.
Correct, because of their age.
And most of those are looking for, from my understanding of a few conversations today, most of those are looking for a full day preschool option, even if it's at a cost. They would want to.
Helpful to the families to do full day.
Is there any information, like if a child is not meeting the standard at the beginning of kindergarten, by the end, are most of them then where they need to be, or they're still behind?
I would, again, that really depends on each individual child. It's gonna be the core instruction. A lot of times, the support they get from home, what types of interventions we have in place within the district, it really does vary. Some do, some need, some yes, some no.
I guess my question would be, like, if 2 children were at grade level and one moved on to kindergarten, one stayed in TK, would the TK child then go into kindergarten where they needed to be? I mean, I guess that's the biggest question I would have. You know what I'm saying?
I would say yes, they would be at where they needed to be. I mean, if they were at the same starting point to begin with.
So they have a full another year to
Correct.
be where they need to be.
They might make more gains. But again,
You're seeing more social and emotional gains than you are academic.
Correct. Correct.
Which is what most families are considering TK for.
Yeah.
To get their
In my
child.
experience.
Yes.
In my experience.
And from who I've talked to, I don't know about you guys, but the ones who have reached out are looking for that emotional development, age development.
And I
Just
think
because especially at that age, that's like a visible thing you
Correct.
can tell, you're not like testing their
Correct.
reading. process.
And it can be like with boys, it can be a physical growth and sometimes don't grow until later. And we're gonna bring this to Dr. Burnett when he comes in next week. And if there are additional next steps, please let us know.
Yeah, because so this kind of speaks to the preschool argument too, because right now it does we really give, unfortunately, this double whammy of like, we're not. This is gonna sound kind of bad, but like, we're not showing welcoming, like, let's bring every family with 3 to 4 year olds, we're kind of saying like, well, we've now restricted this TK program and we're restricting this preschool to a half day, like, it's really. We're not setting the precedent of like, we're starting this really solid foundation of thing. I mean, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, we should be funding a lot of money to that group, because that's really the foundation piece.
That's the most important.
And that's the introduction to the district, and so if they're not getting that introduction piece, then. I mean, we're already talking about conversations of, well, we'll look at IC and then we'll look at this other district, well. What's the enticement of them to come back to keep?
Can we do more to promote it in this year that we're taking? I mean, I don't know what we could make, maybe they weren't understanding.
We can try.
Yeah.
That'd be my concern too, is they have nothing to be like, well, what does it mean? Then it's all of them to be like, oh, what was that? And then we're further down the road of re-offering TK back.
I personally would like to look in the evaluation. We added the rubric system this year,
Yes. we-
and prior to that, it was majority face-to-face conversation with parents. Did that significantly change?
The face-to-face conversations, no, I don't believe that.
We still had those
There was just a rubric assessment used as well. So yeah, the face-to-face conversation with parents still took place.
Just so that we're having those with everyone to express that option, I guess, and not just. That way we can encourage anybody to have the fit they need here in Charles City.
I would agree. And like you said, it's just a lot of the decisions financially made, and we can, with the double whammy, I think we just definitely need to keep communicating and promoting those programs, so.
Yeah, because I'm hearing, I guess what I'm hearing too is the research is not like, it's a bad thing. The research I'm not hearing is it's a great thing.
It's kind of, yeah,
It's
it's
like
kind of
kind
a
of a
wash, it's in
neutral.
between, yeah.
So then it becomes the argument of like, well, if it's kind of the seen as the norm, and I mean. The he said, she said is very kind of popular in small town Iowa, and so we're seeing all these other districts offering it. It's a net gain or loss. I think we really need to consider still offering it, even if it's not. A pro or negative, depending upon personal feelings.
Was it that like the teacher was recommending it to the parents as a, like at conference time, or was it more Joe was saying, talking to the parents and saying?
I would say it was from my understanding, it would have been a joint conversation at parent teacher conferences. I would say, from my understanding, that is not a specific question I've asked, though, to be totally honest.
That was my understanding, Joe, when he spoke, that it was a team event to sort.
I think it can be a very valuable program. I just know with only 4 students,
It's hard
it's
to
a tough
put the teacher.
decision that had to be made.
Has there been
Yes.
any discussion on offering some additional support to those families that
Then I'm not sure.
maybe do feel excited that they didn't get that program that they were intending to have?
Has there been additional support? to
Yeah,
the
like, or has it been any plan for those families?
Not that I'm aware. Those are things we've been told on with our new superintendent too.
I don't know what that would be, but just as a, when they have this intention.
And I do know more districts are offering it as the landscape of education changes in Iowa, so.
With Dr. Burnight's expertise in elementary level, I think we got somebody that can really help us reevaluate as we roll into next year. Make sure we're promoting our preschool and our,
And he is familiar with the two program that they have in Sioux City, so.
thank you.
We're on business item, new business item, a fiscal year 25 wages.
I do just want to give a context as to, I know we've gone over it before, but where this, how we got to where we did and where the money came from.
Yeah, Carl, do you want to jump in since you helped me with that?
Really with the teacher, it's sort of with the financial situation. Charles City,
Carl, can you pause for a second? You're on a computer. Leave that way.
Use the microphone.
okay. Do I have a chart, Alex phone or computer or something?
Yeah, you're on laptop.
We couldn't get you on the big screen.
All right, you can start again, Carl, sorry.
Sure. So, we'll start with the teachers and, really just, kind of based on the funding level, budget and sort of maybe overspending, this year. We really started with, almost the desire to try not to do sort of any more harm to, the district budget. Probably starting at 0, was probably the number. We did feel like we needed to do something to recognize our teachers. Moving forward, I think the district is gonna have to right size a little bit. So hopefully, at least that was a small step forward, but didn't do, a lot of harm. We're sort of paying for some of that, through the teacher minimums. So, teacher minimums, we're getting some additional dollars from the state for that. When we kind of make that through the salary schedule, we did have some overage there. So we'll apply some of that overage to that $500. So I do want to make sure that the board understands, that $500 is equally distributed, to everybody, that hasn't got a bump through the teacher minimums. So it gets a little confusing. The teacher minimums really apply to almost new teachers that were making less than $47,500. Then you had teachers with 12 years of experience making less than $60,000. So they only addressed really 2 groups of people. And in the salary schedule, the salary schedule that Charles City has, that creates inequities in that salary schedule. Because those people were sort of treated differently than everybody else on the salary schedule. So doing that flat raise for everybody probably will give Brian a chance to sort of get a general understanding of the salary schedule and how he wants to try to address that sort of moving forward. So just know that some of those new teachers may be getting $5,000 bump, or some of your other staff who weren't addressed in those teacher minimums are only getting a $500 bump. So hopefully you kind of understand that explanation there. I'll sort of pause on that one and see if there's any questions, comments, or concerns.
Any questions? No questions, Carl.
Okay, so then we'll go on to the next one, which is sort of your coaches. And really that's just a freeze on the lane and step. It was my understanding last year that the district sort of identified and targeted sort of redoing the coaching schedule. And so that was corrected last year. So that was probably an area where we felt like we didn't need to stick additional money in at this time. Again, once you sort of figure out the district budget and going forward, might be back in that situation where you can continue to give coaches the well-deserved raise that they deserve. Any questions on the coach's salary?
No questions.
Okay, then we go to sort of the support staff, which is just a 25 cents an hour raise to continue to be competitive. When you do the math on that, 25 cents times 7 or 8 hours a day, depending on the contract, to be honest with you, would be in the ballpark of what teachers would be getting with their $500 increase. So again, none of this is anything that we want to do. We would rather be in a position where we are honoring our staff and giving better raises. But unfortunately, sort of the budget dictates a conservative nature at this point. Any questions with that one?
I don't see any questions. Nope.
And then the last one is it's sort of the same thinking, just doing the administrators and directors essentially getting the same $500 increase that pretty much each of the other groups got, trying to keep that pretty consistent, and again, for the same rationale as shared before. So I'll entertain any questions, on that one.
This is for the general, all of them. Did the money that we're using for this, the teachers that were bumped at the 2 levels and these raises come from the state in a package, or where's it coming from?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, you're getting some money to adjust, right, those teacher minimums.
Mhm.
And then really sort of the rest of it sort of comes through your general fund and what through SSA. It's allowable growth, some people call it allowable growth, it's 2.5% this year. The problem with that is when we look at that number, because of the declining enrollment that Charles City has, our new money, as they call it, so almost like your increase year over year, our new money is actually negative for next year. So it's like almost every dollar you give is, going the wrong direction, if that makes sense. But again, you're trying to do something where you feel like it's fair. So in some ways, I would tell you, like, as you right size, you're probably gonna have to make some reductions in the future. But you also wanna sort of keep people and treat them fairly in the process until you can get the opportunity to right size, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we sort of try to limit, I would say this, I think I said, in my short time, I think didn't really feel like I was in a position to fix anything, realistically, but I was trying to not do additional damage. And that was sort of the approach that we took.
Okay. Any questions? No. We have to do these individually.
Nope, you just want to motion to approve.
For each one though.
Nope, you just approved like the FY25 wages and they're all in the same one, so.
Make a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 wages as presented.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Then we have fiscal 25 insurance plans.
Yep, and Carl's gonna go, yeah, each one of those are, yep.
Yeah, so, last Friday, we held sort of an all staff meeting, kind of sharing, the revised insurance plans for next year. Again, I was about to tell the board, that wasn't something, that I necessarily wanted to do, in the short time that we had, but seeing the plan existed, with Charles City, really felt like this was an opportunity to do something, I think positive for the district and for the large majority of our staff. Try to communicate those plans out, and sort of the guiding philosophy there is to treat people equitably, kind of removing back that family, insurance subsidy. What ends up happening when you do that, there's only so much money to go around right in this pot of what we gotta pay for our staff. And if you're always allocating that, to family insurance, that really sort of depresses your salary schedule. So it makes it hard to get your salaries, more attractive. And the other thing on that was, part of that also was you guys really had a very rich plan, which would be, a $500 deductible and a $1,000 deductible, which is just a really wicked plan, but expensive, right? And part of that was through the data that we realized, only about 20% of the people were meeting the deductible, and either the 500 or the 1,000. And so you're spending all that money to have this really rich plan that most people aren't using. And so we kind of underwent a complete redesign. Our whole, if you're not meeting a $500 deductible, you're not meeting a $200 or $2,000 deductible. So take that premium and start to either use it to help address the financial issues at Straw City. You could use it to put more money into the salary schedule. You could sort of use it to try to keep insurance flat. And if you can keep insurance flat, that means your settlement, all can go on salary. And then your teachers really see that in their paycheck, which is a great thing. So to be honest with you, I'm really happy about the insurance plan design. Not really happy about the raises that we gave. You know, we'd love those to be more, but really am happy about our work with our insurance consultant and the plan that was created. And knowing that this is really step one, and shared with the staff that hopefully in a year from now, we'll also be adding another plan, a high deductible plan, that also has an HSA component to it. It'll give us a little bit more time to kind of share that, inform our staff. We want our staff to become sort of more informed consumers of insurance, how that allocation all works, and you know, the premium versus, you know, other things. So I think it's a great step in the right direction for sure. But there'll be another step here in another year. So I think I said our year over year will probably be about $150,000 of savings. But we're still giving some family incentive or subsidizing that family insurance at $300 a month. Just so you know, when you do that, we kind of calculate it, that's about $250,000 that's being used to subsidize family insurance. And that will go away next year. So if you sort of think about that, then you have that money to do something with, right? Obviously, you'll have some insurance increases, but you'll have some other additional dollars that you can determine, you know, what do we do with at this time. That's a lot of information. So I'll kind of just see if you have any questions, comments, or concerns at this point.
Any questions?
Each section of the whole insurance plan.
Just the insurance plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 insurance plans as listed.
I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Personnel report.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Fundraiser.
Make a motion to approve the fundraiser as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes. Thanks, Carl. Policy.
We don't have any, we'll start on the when Brian starts off.
Board comments, any board member with comments?
Yes, our new superintendent starts June 1st.
Third.
Third.
Monday, from today.
Not on Saturday. Like, he's already working, like June 3rd. But he'll be at the next meeting. Yep.
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seriously?
Yep, second.
You are adjourned.